Okay, so good morning, everyone. And I am here. I see people are piling in right now. And as you pile in, I say good morning to you. I see a bunch of participants signing up here. Let's see, so far I got 14. Craig's here. Hey, Craig, how you doing? Debbie, Jeff. Hey, Jeff, how's it going over there in Jersey? Joanne's here. Kim, all right. All right, a lot of folks showing up. Awesome. I see my friend Bill. Bill is an Act Matrix guy. He does the monkey matrix, those of you. Nice to see you here. And lots of other folks are showing up. So, oh yes, buenos dias to you too, Bill. Now, Bill has found the chat function. If you look down in the bottom of your control panel there, you will see this little bubble and the word chat under it. So you could actually chat in, and I'm going to say, hi, this is Phil from I can't spell today. All right. Langhorne. So put that in there. Jorge, yes, you are in, Jorge. Can everyone, you can see me and you can hear me, right? Let's just give me a yes on that. Know that all my stuff is working. Sharon, good morning from Delaware. Jorge, yes. Yes, see and hear. Excellent, excellent. Okay. So I'm going to give it a little bit. Had a bunch of people. Oh, Lori from Lancaster. Hey, Lori, how you doing? Let's see, Rory. All right. Got about 20 people here. We had a bunch of people sign up, so I'm just going to wait just another half a second before I get going. Angela from Elmore. Hi, Angela. Great. And also know that I am recording this webinar so that you will probably, you will get the recording tomorrow, and then you can sit back and watch it if you want again. And please also, you could, if you want to, you can share it with other people. Because that's my goal here today, is to get out this point of view on National SEL Day and see if we can help to flex people up and help them to keep doing their important stuff. And I'm seeing some more people piling in. That's great. And yeah, give it another minute or two. So I hope everyone is safe and healthy. We are in the midst of this pandemic thing right now, obviously. So I'm recording this on March the 27th of 2020. And we are well into a week or so of being within this pandemic situation, which has gripped not just this country, but the entire world. And that has actually changed the focus for me of what I wanted to do today, because initially this was like National SEL Day. So this is what I was going to do to try to promote SEL, social emotional learning, for big people and little people. And then this pandemic came along. So now, we need to be paying attention to that as well. So what I'm going to be doing, and what Kevin Polk, who is the creator of the Matrix, and I have been doing all week, is we have been doing webinars about promoting psychological flexibility during the pandemic. Now, what we'll do, the best way to communicate going forward is through chat. I have everybody, we can't communicate through the audio, so you'll use the chat function. Those of you who are coming in late, you'll see it over there. It's going to be underneath chat. A lot of people have found it already, so that's good. And that's kind of how you can, if you want to shoot me a question or a comment, I'm going to ask you to type some stuff in as we go along. And that's pretty much how we're going to do the webinar. So why don't we then, I'm going to just kind of jump right in now and get started. In about 10 years or so, for those of you who don't know a whole lot about the Matrix, I can see that there's a lot of Matrix people out here today. That do know about the Matrix. So, what we're going to be doing today is looking at all of this from this Act Matrix point of view. Okay, Eileen has to attend. That's fine. Yeah, great. You can view the recording. That's terrific. Thanks for joining me. No problem. We about 10 years ago or so, Kevin came up with the Act Matrix. I happened to be working with him at the time, at least remotely, had come in contact with him through ACT, Acceptance and Commitment Therapy and Training, and have been with him ever since, trying to promote the ACT Matrix point of view to help people struggle less, do more of what they want to do, get moving. Super easy to do. You can use it with anyone, and I have used it with just about everyone from about 5 years old all the way up to, senior citizens and beyond. So that's what we're going to be doing today within the context of the pandemic, right? So what I would suggest that you do, and you don't have to do this, but you get yourself like a piece of paper or something like that. So for me, I have my handy dandy. Those of you who have been in one of my trainings know all about my handy dandy whiteboard. And you might just want to draw out the ACT matrix. And if you haven't done it before, quickly going to walk through that about how to do that. What I want to do then is I'm going to go in here. You'll see me kind of toggling off, and I'm going to share my iPad with you. Got all my technology going here, and just bear with me for a minute, and hopefully it'll show up. And here it comes, and there it is. So you should now be able to see my slide. So if someone could just type in and make sure, I'm pretty sure you can see it. Just let me know that you can see the slide. It says learning to act with psychological flexibility. Yep. All right. Great. All right. So everything's working well, right? Yes. Yes. Good. All right. So that's what we're going to be up to today. But before we jump into the ACT matrix point of view, we're going to give due diligence to what's going on, but let's just kind of set up our context. So there is the ACT matrix, folks, for those of you that don't know what it is, and I'm assuming that most of you on the call pretty much know what it is. It's a diagram of how we learn. And the way that everybody learns everything is information comes at us, comes into us from our 5 senses up here, right? There's our 5 senses. And then that information is going to flow down inside of us, and it shows up in our mind as mental experiencing thoughts, feelings, images, urges. And that stuff is happening all the time. From the moment we draw our first breath to the moment that we draw our last breath, we are taking in information, processing it, it's showing up inside of us. So all of that stuff that we've learned all through our lives is there available to us. So that's what that vertical line is all about. And at the same time, what's also going on is everything that we do in our lives, we're doing something to move toward someone or something that's important to us, or we're doing things to move away from uncomfortable, yucky inner experiences like fear, which is something that we have boatloads of right now. So that's our ACT matrix. That's the diagram. That's going to be the sandbox that we're going to play in today for this webinar. So now let me go into the next slide. So let's give due diligence to the coronavirus. So now what I've done here is the coronavirus is up there at the top, right? So we're getting information about it. We're experiencing it, in either on TV. Hopefully you haven't experienced it yourself or loved ones, but there's a good possibility that those of us on the call are going to come in contact with people that have either experienced it or had it or, are getting it. Because it's everywhere, right? It's what we call the pandemic. So it's out there in the world, and all of that information that we're getting all the time is flowing down inside of us, right? It's flowing down, and it's ending up down here in our mental experiencing, right? So we're on the news and we're watching things, and all of that stuff is just flowing in all the time. Now, while it's flowing in, before it even gets down into our conscious awareness, we got this thing called an amygdala, right? You have it, I have it. And what that amygdala is that is our great big threat assessment tool that we have, right? It's kind of like the lifeguard that's patrolling the beaches, looking out there, looking for threats. Our threat detection system constantly warning us of scary stuff and kind of making quick decisions about what's dangerous. Right? So, what do you think is showing up in everyone's amygdala right now? Anybody want to hazard a guess and type in there what you think is showing up inside of your amygdala and my amygdala? I'll tell you in a minute what's showing up inside mine. But let's see if anybody else has a thought here. Just type into the chat. Yes, fear, Jorge. That is the biggie. That is absolutely the biggie. So there it is, right? All of that stuff is flowing down inside of us. And then we have the fear showing up, right? And we don't want the fear. Anxiety, yes, absolutely, that's there as well. Sadness, oh, you got it. Yes, it's all showing up inside of us right now, right? And it's kind of there. And we're just kind of, and now what we're doing here with this ACT matrix is we're noticing it. Confusion, all of that could be showing up inside of us, right? I can cop to all of that stuff showing up at one time or another over the past week or so. And it's this really scary stuff. And it's telling us also up there that this coronavirus stuff up here is very dangerous, right? And as well it should be. So if your amygdala is going off and you got fear showing up inside of you, I say good for you, because we need to have that fear. So that's going to keep us on our toes, keep us vigilant, keep us doing those things that we want to be doing when that amygdala is kind of basically telling us what to do, you know. And we're getting messages at the same time. We're continuing to get the updates and the tweets and the news blasts and the conversations with others. It's coming in from everywhere. And that's what I want those arrows up there to represent. It is coming into us, right? So down here, we got this mental experiencing that we're having. And you also have, not on top of that, all of our past experiences and our knowledge of viruses. And those of us that have lived long, you know, we've had viruses. I've had the flu, different things, measles, all that kind of stuff. So all that quickly just generates more and more fear. So we'll put the fear down there in the lower left. Doesn't feel so good. So that's where we put the stuff that we don't want in matrix terms. We're going to put it there in the lower left in the unwanted left-hand quadrant. So it's there. And this is where a lot of people are right now. And even those of us, as we said, who are here on the webinar right now, right? So we're going to have this conversation, because then what we're going to be doing, right, when that fear shows up, we're going to be doing things to try to move away, control, avoid, and lessen the fear, right? So the fear shows up. All right, so what are we doing, folks? We're doing things like, well, I'm going to write something up here. One of the things that we're doing is we are, let's just put this one. We're washing your hands. I have never washed my hands so much in my life as I have over this past 2 weeks, right? So that's a move away from fear. We're washing the hands to control the fear, to lessen the fear, to give ourselves some sense of control over ourselves and what's happening. We can't control the coronavirus, but we can certainly wash our hands, right? So that's one of the things that we're paying attention to, right? We're paying attention to this washing of the hand stuff. And the other thing that we're doing is we're doing this stuff, they call it social distancing, right? Social distancing. And that is like, 6 feet away, right? I'm super conservative. I'm going for 7 feet away. I don't want to take any chances. So we're going to go past 6 feet into 7 feet, because we know that if we do that away move from fear, right, by washing our hands and by social distancing, those are some pretty simple things that we're going to be able to do to help us reduce some of that fear. It's not going to eliminate it. It's going to keep showing up. Now, some of the other things I see people doing, sometimes this kind of response to the fear, it can get out of hand, right? So then you might see some people going up here, and what are they doing, right? Well, you go to the store, I go to the store, and what don't we see there now a lot of? They buy a lot of toilet paper. So then we got to this hoarding thing, right? And again, that's another response to the fear, right? So that's something else that I see happening, and you probably see happening, and you hear happening. And we're all doing it to gain some kind of control over things, right? But then, is it going to work in the long term? Because for now and for the foreseeable future, let's face it, folks, we're going to keep getting that coronavirus stuff up top, right? I think it's a fair bet. So this is what's going on right now. And we can actually map it out on the matrix, just the way we're doing here. So, then what I would do here is I'm going to bring up now a new matrix diagram, and we could actually start doing the matrix here. And we're going to be using the matrix really as a way to engage people. And those of you that use it, it's a great tool to engage people in a conversation, help them develop what we call a little bit more psychological flexibility, right? And we could work it that way. So, but before that, we want to be back here. We're noticing those messages coming in, right? We're noticing the fear is showing up, and we're noticing that we're making these moves away from the fear. So it could be that those are workable moves, And it could also be that maybe those are not so workable moves. But either way, we want to be able to step back and evaluate, okay, short-term effect, long-term effect, how is it working for us, right? So we're adding what the matrix does is it adds this whole skill, this behavior, this action of simply noticing what's showing up without having to do anything right now. We're just simply noticing it. And we're noticing that we're doing things to reduce, basically to reduce our fear. So, so that would be the way I would want to start. I'm going to stop share just for a second, come back to myself and say, so then if we're going to be doing matrix work, what we want to be doing is we want to be getting our matrix diagram up in front of us or up in front of your, whoever it is that you're working with. If you're working with students, if you're working with adults, it's really going to be the same thing. So, in my office, I would have my matrix diagram right here behind me. But you could actually just have a piece of paper and you could have the diagram written right here. I already wrote the first question down for people, but you could go ahead and do that. And you can do it with a piece of paper, like I said. You can do it with sticky notes. It doesn't matter. The point would be to just kind of get that diagram up in front. So let's do that. Let's just go back in here again. I'm going to share my slide again for you. And we are now going to just kind of walk through a matrix diagram. So I'm going to bring it back up again and just in a second. All right. So my slide should be back up. Everybody seeing it? I'm just guessing again. So I'm just going to go ahead and say, okay, it's up there. So we're going to start with the question, right? The question that I like to start with and that I would suggest that we all start with is already written there, right? I put all the questions down for people so you can see them. And the question is going to be, who's important to you, right? So as I say to you, who's important to you, those of us that are here on the chat, please chat in and you could share with me who's important to you. So I'm going to go first. And right now I'm upstairs in my office and my wife is downstairs and I'm going to put down that my wife is important to me. Ah, Jorge, well, yeah, your wife's important to you too. The cats. Excellent. We got cats showing up. Yep. The pets are people. Family. Yes, absolutely. Family is important. Grandson. Yes. Grandson. Aunts, and let's put the uncles in there too. If we got the aunt showing up, I'm going to put the uncles down there as well. Awesome. Husband, mother-in-law. Oh, thank you. Mother-in-law, my mother-in-law is important to me. She is in an assisted living, so we're not able to see her right now. So we FaceTime with her. Your friends. I just had a Zoom meeting with my friends yesterday. Co-workers, yes, co-workers are important, yes. So all of these people that we're talking about right here, right? So now, we're just kind of neighbors, yes. And I have discovered on my walks around the neighborhood, because I am able to walk, all of these neighbors, these people that I have never seen before in my life. And because we're all home together, we're all taking walks because, you can only be in the house for so long. You want to go out and do a little something, get some fresh air. So the really cool thing is that we're getting to know each other, socially distant, 6 feet, of course, apart. So, that's kind of what we're doing. Now, I'm going to add someone who's very, very important to me that I have never met, I have never come into contact with, but I'm going to put him down here right now. This guy is Dr. Anthony Falchi. Dr. Anthony Falchi is very important to me. Super, super important to me, because I do believe that Anthony Falchi knows what he's talking about. He's the doctor. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to basically put doctors up there, right? Because the doctors are important to me, and the nurses, I would say, are important to me, and anybody in the health. Oh, yes. Lori agrees. Yes. Any healthcare people, all of our brave healthcare people out there that are taking it with them every day. Dr. Burks, okay, great. Dr. Burks is too, but Anthony is my go-to guy. If I see Anthony up there, delivery people, yes, delivery people are important, right? Delivery people, grocery people. My sister works in a grocery situation. They are super, super important. I like Dr. Falchi because at the end of the day, and everybody gathers and the president does his thing, And I'm looking for Falchi because I know that he's going to give me the best information on this virus. Oh, my husband cleans housing areas. Well, I'll bet, my hat is off to him too. Educators, all of us as educators, all of us folks that are home right now trying to make a difference with people, with students remotely, and trying to maintain connections with them, right? Postal people, newspaper delivery people, everybody on the front line combating the virus. That is really just, that takes the whole thing in, Adrian. Very nice. That just pulls the whole thing together, right? So why do we start here? Well, you know, and I know why we start here, because folks, at the end of the day, when it comes to this pandemic and just about everything else in life, what we do is going to be about moving toward the important people in our lives. And this includes ourselves, right? We could even say me, I'm important. And this is what we're doing, really, in the midst of this unprecedented time in our history. This is what we're doing. Pretty much the whole world. We're all kind of lasered in on this thing of like stopping the virus and staying socially distanced and all that kind of stuff, right? And obviously, one of the reasons why you are so important is so that you can stay healthy and stay out of the hospital, so we can all stay out of the hospital, and we don't put increased demand on the hospital, because those folks, obviously, they've got their hands full right now, and it's getting kind of it's really getting squirrely up there in New York. That's kind of one of the big hot spots right now in the country. New York is really feeling it, and those hospitals are really feeling it. So we need to be socially distant, washing our hands, taking care of each other, so we can let those really important people they're in a class by themselves, do their job. So this is also why we start here with who's important to you. It's super, super important, because when you start doing that, it puts things in perspective, folks, very, very quickly. So we're going about noticing our important people. And then we can also notice, as we keep going around the matrix, we can notice that yucky stuff like fear, I already put that up there, shows up on the inside of us, right? So what's some of the other stuff that shows up on the inside of us? So some of you have already typed in. You can type in again. I know I saw anxiety. Somebody said anxiety. Confusion. Confusion can show up on the inside of people. Worry is something that can be showing up on the inside of us. Anybody else? Chat in, right? Anger. Oh, yes. I'm experiencing a bit of that these days. I'm really angry. I'm angry at this virus and what it's doing to people. Sadness, right? Boredom, right? I hear that a lot from the young people. They're bored, right? I got nothing to do kind of stuff, right? Boredom could be showing up inside of people. Loneliness. Yeah, those of us that maybe aren't fortunate enough to have that we're living with people, you're feeling pretty lonely right now, feeling kind of isolated, right? So isolation could be showing up inside of people, right? So all of this is that uncomfortable stuff that shows up on the inside of us. I'm going to add something else. Sometimes and I don't know if you've experienced this, but I have experienced this, this thing called some thoughts. Anybody have some thoughts, right? And one of the thoughts could be, and I've heard this a little bit. Again, I don't know if you have, but it goes something like, let me see, how does this go? It goes, I am not concerned about the virus. You ever hear that stuff show up? Or anybody kind of have that thought? Yeah, off balanced, right? Off balanced, right? But sometimes you might even get to some people, which shows up on the inside of them is this thing they just do. I just call this thing deny, right? Because like, here's all the evidence out there. It's in your five senses, right? But then some, maybe it's not so bad, or I'm not that concerned about it. But for myself, if I'm paying attention, Dr. Falchi, he's talking, Dr. Burks, hey, I'm taking this stuff serious, right? And that's kind of part of what we're trying to do here today, is like we really do need to kind of hunker down and have a sense of moving together in a shared purpose, which we're going to be getting to, right? Yeah, so helplessness, powerlessness, all of this stuff shows up on the inside of us, right? And again, now let's think about those young people and old people that we serve, because I'm assuming that a lot of people here are helpers, right? And let's get back to the good old Mr. Rogers. I like to quote Mr. Rogers a lot. And Kevin and Polk and I talk about him all the time. We consider Mr. Rogers the patron saint of the act matrix because, you know, what he said back in the day, and this is back in 9/11. Remember 9/11, folks? This is probably, in my way of thinking, the closest recollection that I can have. You know, this blows 9/11 out of the water, but 9/11 really rocked everybody. And what Mr. Rogers said after 9/11 happened is he got on, he did a public service announcement, and he said, look for the helpers. And that's really kind of what we're doing here, right? So we have our helpers out there ahead of us, our medical people, our science people trying to come up with ways of combating this virus and vaccinating and drugs that can work to slow the rate of the progression of it in people that are really experiencing very severe symptoms. And at the same time, we're down here, we're the helpers for, you know, the kind of the social helpers and the emotional helpers. So our task is to kind of show up for people as best we can. And we also want to, at the same time, I think one of the best ways to do that is to acknowledge that fear is, all of that stuff is showing up inside of us. And now all of that stuff is showing up inside of probably our students. And we're not even close enough to them that we can be in touch with them. So we have a tough job ahead of us, not just now, but in the future. Once we're past the pandemic, we're going to have some stuff that we have to do. So now that we've had this little discussion about the stuff that people do, the yucky stuff, I'm going to go up in here in the upper left, and we can talk about what we do to move away from the yucky stuff. And already I can imagine inside my head that someone is going to maybe show up maybe and rescue me from all this, right? Well, okay, so that's going on in my own head. And I'm doing that to reduce my yucky stuff. But now in the upper left, we can talk about and jot down these things that people do to move away from that yucky stuff down there on the bottom. And obviously, again, I'm going to put this down again. One of the big biggies to move away from the fear is we're going to wash hands, right? Wash those hands, right? So that is a very good away move, right? Oh yeah, we could share a funny joke. That's great. Yep. So that would be a nice little distraction too. Distract with humor, right? I just saw a very cool video yesterday about all of these Italian mayors. I don't know if anybody ever saw it, but go into YouTube and Google Italian mayors. And it's a collection of all these Italian mayors and how they're threatening their people and going out there on the street and telling people to get inside and all that kind of stuff. It's a hoot, but they're actually doing what they need to be doing to try to protect their people and get them off the streets and all of that kind of stuff. But it's funny. So we're going to distract with humor. That's great. We could reach out to others to get rid of loneliness. Yes, absolutely. Reach out to others, right? So we can reach out, and that's where we're going to be connecting, right? You text people, you phone people, you do things like, you know, Skype and Zoom, a walk. Just go for a walk to try to minimize this stuff a little bit, right? And we all want to be doing these kinds of things. Watch comedy. Oh yeah, absolutely. We are big comedy people in my house. Watch TV. Netflix is really getting a lot of work in my house. Watch TV, all of that kind of stuff, right? And all we're doing here now is we're just mapping out the fact that when this yucky stuff, yeah, breath. Oh, drink. Very good. Finally, a honest person in the crowd. It's a little bit early for the drinking, but we're going to put that down there too. That's very popular, right? Except that now all the liquor stores and the beer stores in my neck of the woods are all closed. So at some point, that might not be such a workable move, but that's okay. That's what we got, right? So we're doing all of these things to try to control or to lessen or reduce that unwanted stuff. Yeah, learning new technology, right? People are learning all kind of stuff. I got friends of mine that are learning how to do Zoom, and you're talking about creating newsletters and websites. So you're making the most of the time that you have, right? And what we're talking about here is that initially we're really doing that. I mean, we're doing that to help people, but initially we're doing things to try to have some sense of control, try to reduce and calm down that uncomfortable stuff that's showing up on the inside of us, right? And we want to be doing things pretty much that are simple and sustainable. And let's face it, folks, I mean, washing your hands and staying 6 feet away from each other is probably the two most simple and sustainable things that we can do right now. And not only, and the great thing about that is that when we're doing that, we're also helping out the rest of the folks that are around us. So, but now we're doing this thing within the context of now with the ACT matrix, and the way we're doing it is we're noticing it, right? So, you can step back, you can say things, I was really doing that, let's say, exercise thing to reduce my stress. So now, I'm going to go do exercise to reduce my stress. And that could be a very workable thing to do. And the intention is then to move away. And you could also be saying that your health is important. So you're going to take a walk. So that might be more of an intention to move toward your health. So I'm pointing this out right now because with the matrix, we're not looking to pass any judgment here, folks. The matrix is a judgment-free zone. I come from the standpoint of radical non-judgmentalism. When I'm doing the matrix with somebody, I am just simply there with them or with a group, and we are doing this very cool thing called noticing, which is what we're doing right now. So this is not about right or wrong, and this is really the nature of the work. It's about noticing the nature or the intent of the behavior and noticing if that works, because some moves are more workable than others. So for example, something that I've seen people do, buy too much TP, right? So that might not be such a workable move, right? People start doing that. And again, yeah, Bill, whatever works, right? And that's really just a simple mantra. We're going to do whatever works in the moment. And then we go ahead and try that thing out. And we notice how it's working for the short term, but we could also want to be noticing how that's working out for the long term. So buying toilet paper, fine, right? Buying all the toilet paper in the shelf up, not so cool. On the long term, that's not so hot, right? Let's just take your fair share. Like back in World War II, they had these slogans and like, take your fair share. So that would be kind of like, that's what we're up against here. That's what we're trying to do. So, and what we're trying to do with this really is when we're using the ACT matrix is we're meeting people right where they're at. I'm going to bring back Mr. Rogers again, and he's going to come up on the slides a little bit, because at the end of every show, Mr. Rogers would say to the children, and he basically was talking to young children, 4 to about 8 or 9, older people, but pretty much he was trying to target the younger crowd. And he would look at them and he would say, hey, you've made this day a special day just by being you. And I like you just the way you are. So what we're doing here when we're doing ACT matrix work is we're saying, you're okay just the way you are. Right now, this is just the way you are. You got your important stuff, you got that yucky stuff, and that's where we're going to start. And it works out great for dealing with all kinds of situations. Works out great for dealing with difficult people because it gives you a place to start. And that's really the idea, is how do you engage people? How do you engage them in a conversation? And if we're trying to promote SEL, social emotional learning, and those we serve, we want them to learn how they can also be in touch with their yucky stuff and also be noticing the intentions or the purposes of their behavior. And this is a great way to do it, to bring people into that noticing, this kind of backed up point of view. And it doesn't mean they have to stay there. Okay. We're not saying they're going to stay there. They can shift, and it's going to be easier for them to shift from this perspective than from some other less workable, less what I would call psychologically flexible perspectives. And the other thing that we're doing here as we go along is we're validating the experiences of whomever you're working with. If it's you or me, all of us, we're validating our own experiences right now. Because certainly we are living in an age and a time of fear and uncertainty that's not going to go away anytime soon. So, we got the basics down now. So you think about the behaviors that you or others are doing to reduce yucky stuff. And sometimes, like I said, it's a twofer. You could be exercising to reduce your stress. You could be exercising to move toward your health. And then we're looking at this idea of we're doing all of this to step back even further. Well, what are we doing this for? What is the whole purpose of this? So now, having said that, guess what has changed for all of us within the last 2 weeks? Something has changed very, very dramatically within the last 2 weeks. And what I'm going to say is what I think has changed. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Our sense of safety. Absolutely. Our sense of safety has changed. We feel less safe. And I'm going to also then say our perspective. Yes. And the perspective of the life that we want to be living has changed, has it not? Before this coronavirus came along, you had this kind of long range view. We all did about, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm heading toward this, I'm heading towards that. Now that perspective, that long range moving toward who I want to be, has gotten, well, let's just say a little bit shaky right now, right? It's not so stable as the way it used to be with all this uncertainty. So, that's why Kevin and I are doing this kind of work, because we're saying that the life that you want to live has shifted, right? And it's also shifted for students, for adults, for those that we serve. It's a shift for all of us. And things have become less stable. So, the workability kind of criteria, bring some of that back into focus, because now we can start to get a little bit more solid. Okay, given the context, given the situation that I'm in, and helping people that given the context and situation that they were, what can they do to keep moving toward that important stuff, right? And look, I don't have the answer. I'm sure you don't have the answer. And I don't think all the pundits and the talking heads out there have the answer either. But, if you can look inside of yourself and those you serve, we can recognize that we're all struggling with the same thing. So in the upper right, we haven't gotten there yet. We're going to put the stuff that we want to do, our favorite moves to reach out toward those important people down there. So someone could just simply say that. Yeah, okay, yeah. So Bill's saying, I feel like I'm living inside medium to small screens most of the time, which before I teased others about. Yes, we are living in a virtual world. So the perspective has certainly shifted. Now we're all little square screens, right? So that's a shift in perspective. Absolutely, absolutely. So now let's go talk about those toward moves. So what kinds of things, what are your favorite things to move toward those important people down there? So, one of the things that I do is I just had coffee with my wife. So I would just write, have coffee with the wife. So that would be my move I've done today. Anybody else? Spending time. Yes. And that in whatever way works for you, you're going to spend time with them, right? If they're with you, you'll spend some real time cooking special things. Oh, I love it. Yeah, we have been doing some baking here and cooking up some stuff. My son, who's home from college, is getting creative. We slow down our pace. Oh, most definitely. I'm well aware of that fact. Yes, take the walk with those important people. We could go up here and we could walk with them. Yes, absolutely. Walking. Attending webinars, Professor. Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely. That's why I'm doing this. We want to keep our chops up. Attend a webinar. Attend webinar, right? Exercise, yes, exercise, great. Exercise, gonna put down, terrific. Meditate with, oh, I love that. Meditate with, group meditation, right? We're all gonna sit down and get focused together. FaceTime, Zoom, people are having Zoom parties. We could be texting people. And we're just doing all of that stuff. So now once we're done and we've filled up all those quadrants and these actions that are down here, right? And, we're looking at the actions, we're looking at the intent. We don't necessarily know if they're going to work or not. We have to go and try them out. And these are the things that we want to be doing or could be doing to move toward the important stuff or to move away from that yucky stuff about all of that, right? So let me just kind of back up. Well, I'm going to go, where am I going to go now? Let's just say what we've done here is we've gone through all 4 quadrants. And now we can step back and now we can talk about the noticing. You've seen it, it was there all along. I put it in there, right? And when you add the psychological flexibility to this, that's going to go in the middle too, right? So I would put noticing, and then this whole thing is going to be psychological flexibility, right? And then when you get the noticing and you get the psychological flexibility going, fairly quickly, you're going to get to workability, which is now you can step back and you can say, is this working? What I'm doing right now, my toward move, my away move, is it working for the life that I want? Knowing that the life that we all want has gotten a bit jumbled up, let's say, right? So this is why I like to use whiteboards, because they're kind of interactive in nature, and you can be doing it with somebody. They can be doing it with you. You can hand them the pen if you want. So now we've introduced the noticing, and we've got this perspective taking. And now we're going to be going into, we've got this big picture going on here, right? And all of this is done from this non-judgmental point of view. So now I go back to my Mr. Rogers, and that's where we start, right? We start with this point of view is, okay, I like you just the way you are. We're noticing who's important to you. We're noticing that yucky stuff shows up inside of you. We notice that you do things to do away from yucky stuff. And we also notice that you want to be able to do things to keep moving toward those important people. And that's really where we want to start with everybody. We begin there and we go from there. And to get to this psychological flexibility, I just like to put the definition up there just for a minute. And it's that ability to notice what you're doing and then choosing an action either toward or away that works to get you where you want to go, especially in the presence of these obstacles. And right now we've got this huge external obstacle, this virus, which is controlling everything, the fear and the uncertainty. And it's about being able to make workable moves within this situation, right? So that's kind of what we're doing here. Kevin and I are working to get this out into the world. And we also, just for a little bit of a plug, I'm going to put this down in here. And I don't have the, apologize, I don't have the link though, but the ACT, oh, hold on here now. Yeah, my typing skills. Yeah. ACT Matrix Academy. All right. So there I just put in the ACT Matrix Academy. If you Google it, we have been doing free training to help people practice with this. We probably will have some training coming up very, very soon next month. And we usually run like a, like a four-week cycle once a week. And we get together with folks and we just practice the ACT Matrix. And then we also offer certification. If you're interested, you don't have to do certification. It is not required, but some people asked for it a while back. And so we do offer certification. That's kind of how we help pay our bills. But if you went to that and you signed up for it, you can be part of that training and then meet with Kevin and I. And we have a series of them that go, through like a 4-week cycle. And that way, you can gather with other like-minded folks and we come up with some pretty cool stuff. In addition to, you're going to get the email, the recording. Now I'm going to continue. Just want to make that little bit of a announcement there in the middle. So because now we're going to do is, my philosophy is this psychological flexibility stuff is a process which you can develop in learners and in yourself. And I have been doing this for many years. It works great to help them gain perspective on things and to come up with workable moves. And then what also happens is you're giving them a tool, you're giving anyone who you use this with a tool that they can use on their own as well. So it's got this kind of staying power that you give it away. Kevin developed the matrix, he immediately gave it away. And that's what we're doing now, giving the training away, webinars, because it's all about right now the basics of let's separate, as they say, spread out, and wash your hands and give everybody the time, the people that are trying to run the show, the time they need to come up with solutions. So now let's go jump into, there's a quick little question. There is the question. The workability question is it working to get me where I want to go, to move me toward who and what is important in my life? So there is the question that we want people to be asking. And it's not necessarily a question that you need to answer. It's just you ask the question and then you notice. It's asking and then noticing, right? And you're noticing workability. If it's working, great. And if it's not working, well, now you can change it up. You have a choice now. You can pause, you can choose. So now let's go jump into the pro-social matrix. So this is the pro-social matrix. Back in 2011, Kevin developed pro-social matrix for groups. And pro-social is really group learning how to take care of itself, to take care of each other. And you can use it in classrooms, schools, businesses, meetings. in your family, because at the end of the day, most of us, we're going to survive this thing. We're going to get past this stuff. So you're going to use this with a group, and I define a group as 2 or more people. So all you got to do with the pro-social matrix is you're going to draw that same diagram that we had before. Oh, wait a minute. Haven't gotten there yet. Let me get back down here. I'm showing you the slide for the original matrix. Let me get to the pro-social. There we go. Now we got the right slide. Sorry, folks. So there's our pro-social matrix. And now that question in the lower right has changed. It is not now who and what is important to us, but then the question now becomes, what's our shared purpose, right? So, well, we're going to do that one now too. So there's one biggie out there, folks, for all of us, shared purpose. And what would it be? Who wants to chat in and tell me what the shared purpose is? Anybody out there? Because I think I know, for me, I have a shared purpose right now. Keeping self and others healthy. That's it, right? Yes, I just make it pretty simple, and I'm saying stay alive, right? Stay alive and healthy. That's a big, big shared purpose right now, right? Let's see what other people have chatted in here. Survival, yes, Jorge, that's what I said, stay alive. I mean, that's really the basics of it, right? Not too extreme. That is, I love that extremity. That's the kind of extremity that we're going for here. And then we also, while we're doing that, yeah, we can be respectful of each other, right? Be respectful of each other. Even people that might not necessarily be agreeing with us, right? A connection and community, absolutely. Connection, community, part of the shared purpose. Community, great, good answer, terrific. Anybody else? Gearing up to help others with their thoughts and feelings, right? So service, let's just put down that we're a service to others, right? Those of us that are here on the call, we're probably doing some version of helping, whether you're a teacher, compassion, kindness. Yes, all of that stuff is, we cannot have too much of that, right? And we're beginning to have, and we're having this conversation right here. And not only are we having compassion and kindness for each other, let's go back to having compassion and kindness for ourselves too. Because let's face it, folks, if you're helping, then you're actually, we're absorbing other things, other boatloads of stress from other people. So part of it is having compassion and kindness really for yourself, and really what's interesting right now is, if you and I can really stay alive and we can maintain the social distance, right? So that would be the big thing, right? So social distance, right? And this is the simple stuff, because I like to get people just doing simple, clear stuff, social distance, right? So if you and I can stay alive, then we're going to keep ourselves healthy and keep people from dying. And that's the news, right? The news is saying that this virus is indiscriminate. It doesn't care whether you're young or old. It kills people, whether at all different ages and sizes and shapes, right? So we know that this is a deadly thing out there, right? That can not, most people are going to get past it, but then there's going to be people that are going to really, really struggle with this. So we are in something together, right? And again, right, it takes a village, someone's saying here, right? We're all in this thing together. So for the first time, everyone on the planet is working to solve one problem. How about that, right? So this virus has brought people together in the misery and on the fear and the uncertainty, but it's brought us together trying to work toward this shared purpose of staying alive, staying healthy, buying time for people to come up with solutions, right? So when we're doing this stuff, when we're staying distance and we're washing our hands, we're helping everybody else. We're helping the healthcare workers, helping the grocery people, the pharmacy people, the delivery people, the service people, all those people that are out there putting themselves in harm's way, because we want to give them that shot and we don't want them to get overwhelmed. We want them to be able to do their job. And if they know that, and then they know that we have their back, that's going to help them do their job that much better. So all of this becomes the shared purpose, right? And now I can tell you what my shared purpose is, and it's because I've got you on the call today. And my shared purpose right now, what I'm trying to do from my remote location, because there's not things I can actually do out there right now, is to spread the ACT matrix. And I've been doing this for about 10 years, those of you that know me, and it's a way to increase this psychological flexibility And what we're working on now when it comes to the pro-social matrix is all about promoting and increasing what's called a sense of psychological safety. So, that's really what we're trying to do here, is promote this sense of safety, that we have each other's back, that we can do what we need to do. So now, what else is going on? Well, okay, let's go over there to the lower left again. And in the lower left, we can see what shows up inside of us and people in their efforts to move toward that shared purpose. So what kinds of yucky stuff can show up and get in the way of the shared purpose? So what do you think? What shows up inside of people? Now, again, I'm just going to say the thing that fear is going to show back up again, right? Yep, Ryan's got fear. Okay, we're on the same page with that one, right? What other kinds of stuff it gets in the way of moving toward the shared purpose? Fear of making mistakes. Yes, right. Fear of making mistakes. And I would say at this point, if we're doing the socially distant thing and we're washing our hands, it's kind of hard to go wrong there, right? Wash your hands. And this is basically the theme of when I talk to my young people, either remotely or in person, if I can, that, you're doing those two things, you have a high probability of getting through this. Yes, uncertainty. That is definitely true. Uncertainty is showing up big time for all of us. There's an uncertain future, right? Now, some of the things that people have noticed and showed up inside of me, you might got to do this blaming stuff, right? Blaming could show up on the inside of you. Oh, it's this person's fault. It's that person's fault. That could be showing up on the inside of people. I also like to think, and I know for myself, that anger, right? People are angry about the conditions that we're in right now. And it's going to show up in this context, and it keeps showing up. Guilt, yes, guilt, right? Could be showing up. Those of us that have it, pretty well, that you've got a house, you've got everything's taken care of, you've got food, and then there's people out there that aren't as fortunate right now, right? They're really, really struggling. So then the other thing that could lead to is this feeling of despair. People have talked about feeling that despair shows up inside of them. How about overwhelmed? Overwhelmed could be showing up inside of people, right? Frustration, yes. And all of this stuff could be showing up on the inside and is obviously showing up on the inside of us, right? Have fighting over resources, stuff like that, spreading anxiety, all that kind of stuff, right? So now let's just we're there, right? So let's go up into the upper left now and okay, so what kind of things are people doing, or could they be doing, to try to move away from all of that uncomfortable stuff that's showing up on the inside, right? And these are in terms of, the shared purpose, efforts you want to take to reduce things, can be doing things even to reduce the virus. So again, we're back over here. And I always put washing hands over here because we're doing that to help ourselves gain some control. So I like to put social distance and washing of the hands on both sides because it's kind of a twofer. You're reducing your own fear and uncertainty by doing that because you're actually increasing the chances that you're not going to spread it and not going to get it. So contact and check others, right? We do a lot of that, right? Like we keep checking in, right? I got that fear showing up and I'm noticing that fear showing up. I'm going to check in. We could have, there we go. Avoid making moves by doing more research. Yes, I just need to get more information, seek more information, which can really be an issue, right? And sometimes seeking information is great. I have developed my own little thing that I do, kind of get up in the morning, I check in with the news stuff, and then I try not to check in for a while, maybe a little bit longer, because all you got to do is turn on the TV or get on your Twitter feed. That's a great thing. And it's just like mainlining stress. It just flows right into you, right? Because you read about the disasters and how horrible it is here and how horrible it is there. And then we get into this, I just need to get more information. Well, us here don't need so much information right now. There's people out there that are working really hard. Let them get the information. Our job is to keep ourselves safe. Listen to good music. Oh, yes, absolutely. Listen to music. These are all workable, I would say workable moves, right? Now, Support some local businesses, play music. There you go. Bill's a guitar player. He's going to do some playing, right? Now, some of the things also that might not be so workable is this idea of, we want to keep checking and we want to keep talking, but then, you want to notice sometimes you get into this thing, I call it stress dumping, right? You know anybody that does stress dumping, like you start to talk to them and they just kind of roll into one thing or another? Well, stress dumping is a move away from fear, right? They're talking and talking because they're trying to calm themselves down. So that could be something that might not be so workable. How about fighting over resources? I heard a little bit of this, right? Fight over resources, All right? They could be doing that. They could be kind of hunkered down in their room. Oh, cleaning. Oh, yes. Cleaning, excessive cleaning, right? So cleaning, I'm okay with cleaning right now because if you're OCD, you like to clean, well, guess what? OCD has just come into vogue here, folks, because this is kind of want to be obsessive about the washing of the hands and the cleaning. Now, we don't want to spend all day doing it, but and Kim's got to go. Yes, it's going to be available later, Kim. I'm going to record it, so you'll be able to get the recording later on. See ya. So, and now at the same time, we are also want to go back to and point out that when we look at this stuff and we're doing it from the ACT matrix point of view, we are looking at it in a light sort of way, right? I'm noticing, for example, I'm noticing myself avoiding everybody. I'm noticing myself not wanting to return the phone call to that person. I'm noticing myself with the feeling of fear, right? And then I'm noticing I'm doing some things to reduce my stress. So this is where the matrix comes in and we're adding this noticing stuff into what we're already doing, right? And we're also noticing about who and what's important to us. And we're also noticing about that shared purpose to keep people healthy. And what you're doing when you stand back from this more distanced noticing point of view and noticing all this stuff is we're now, again, asking the question of workability for the shared purpose, right? And we could be doing other things over here. And, we could go in there and fill in that quadrant about noticing for the shared purpose and the tour moves that we make. And they're going to look pretty much the same, right? We're going to be checking in also with our loved ones. We're going to be getting on Zoom with loved ones. Jeff said to move toward our shared purpose about how about sharing resources. Correct, right? So like, for example, on the webinar yesterday with Kevin and I, someone did is they started a food box in their community, right? So that was kind of a cool, nice shared purpose move, right? Or you're checking in with your neighbors to make sure that they're okay. So we're talking about the shared purpose and we're verbalizing this stuff out loud. And that really, when we're able to do that and have these kind of conversations and verbalize about the yucky stuff, we're acknowledging, we're validating, and it's showing up. And then now we're creating this sense of what I would call psychological safety, right? We're making it okay to talk about this stuff. It's okay to be afraid right now. It's okay to feel uncertain and perhaps overwhelmed and feeling despair. It's just what's showing up for you right now. So the psychological safety that we create when we do this second loop is really about feeling that other people have your back. It's okay to speak your mind. So then when you get people talking about these shared purpose, get them talking about that yucky stuff and the stuff that gets in the way and the things they do to move away and the things they do to move toward, the psychological safety begins to show up within whatever that group is that you're working with. And that could even be including people in your house. So right now we have some really practical things that we can do to limit the virus that makes sense, and they just make sense. So, I'm going to go with science. Science says wash your hands, stay 6 feet away. I'm going to go with science right now. So we can do that. We are really going to be much further down the road. And, is it going to work all the time? Well, maybe not 100%, but we're going to work to try to get as close as we can. And the other thing that we want to be doing, those of us here that are still on the call, or you watch later on, is we want to be able to look past the pandemic, right? Because when we do get through this, and we will get through this, do you think anybody's going to have any lasting effects in terms of, mental health and well-being? What do you think? Type in somebody. You think there's going to be any lasting effects from this pandemic when we get to the other side? Oh, yeah. Got that right, Bill. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Right, right. So there's going to be some stuff showing up. Absolutely, right? There's going to be some lasting effects, right? Even like a year from now. Do you think even like a year from now is going to be some lasting effects? Of course. Yeah. The perspective has changed, right? The frame has changed, right? So, yeah, one of the things that I think that someone mentioned, oh, trauma. There you go. Right. There's going to be some trauma showing up, right? People that have been maybe hunkered down and been maybe in less safe situations, right? They could be experiencing some trauma later on down the road. Absolutely. I think OCD is going to be really, really popular. I think there's a tremendous rise in OCD type symptoms and behaviors and disorders. I think anxiety is going to be huge. You're going to see a lot of people with that are struggling with overwhelming anxiety and panic. So we want to be in good shape down the road, and we want to be able to see how this trying to control the uncontrollable is working out for us, not just in the short term, but also in the long term. And on the plus side, yeah, and the plus side, there is some plus to it, right? Maybe fewer colds, right? Maybe we're going to learn how to take better care of ourselves, right? So that's the other side of that too. So lots of things are going to change. I think people are going to be more mindful, at least in the short term. Who knows in the long term? We tend to want to go back to default stuff. So we'll have to wait and see about that because I really don't know. Once again, we keep coming back to this idea of workability. How what we're doing is working for the current virus, like right now, and how it's going to help pacing out 12 months, 14 months. Yeah, Lori's talking about generational trauma, stuff that gets handed down, right? So we're looking at not just what's going on now, but how is this going to play out maybe 12 months from now, 14 months from now? Jorge is saying with some long-lasting positive changes, right? Hand washing, right? They've been telling us for years, right? Wash your hands. Well, guess what? We're going to be taking better care of our health, perhaps, right? And maybe even being more mindful of social distancing once we get back off this, right? Now, that could also be kind of a sad thing because there may be less physical contact. Don't know, right? Right now, we have no way of knowing, but it's going to give people pause probably, right? Going down the road. So the whole point of this then is we get back to this. We want to be able to notice yourself, notice who and what's important to you, and through that, notice the shared purpose, and then notice now how all of that works out for you. So we're noticing workability for who and what's important to yourself, and we're noticing workability for the shared purpose. Number one, to make it through the virus. Number two, to come out pretty cool on the other side, and at the same time, the best we can, how we can promote it with others. So, this is really kind of how you can do it with folks. And now that we've kind of walked through this point of view, what I would like to say is that all of you that are on the call are now duly deputized that you can go out and you can do this with anybody. We've just walked through the two things. I'm going to send you the recording. I'm probably going to throw a hand out, just kind of walking through the model again. A lot of you folks are already savvy matrix people. You're welcome, Mary. And, what we want to be able to do is get into this kind of frame. And the frame is really kind of the importance of saying yes to what's coming our way. And one of the great examples of this, and I see it every day, is what Falchi does during the conference. Because Falchi kind of stands back. He's the medical guy. He's been around for years. He knows all about pandemics and viruses and all that kind of stuff. And if you notice and you watch him very carefully, he will listen to all the pundits and they'll all say what they say. And then at the end, he'll come up and he'll kind of say yes, and he'll acknowledge them, right? Kind of just acknowledge them. And then he'll go into his and here's what I know. Here's what I want to share. And he is working that very fine line because I don't know how psychologically safe it is for him up there because I think of him and the other Burks as the science people and everybody else less so. I'm not sure what's always going on there sometimes, but I do know the one thing I can depend on is that Falchi's going to give it to us straight, and he also acknowledges the fear and the uncertainty. And I think that's really important as we go through this, that we be able to kind of say that out loud. And he does say he doesn't know. And the thing that he's talked about, Michelle says agreed, is here's my takeaway. and I think he said this either last night on the call, but he said, you know, it's not about timelines right now. And we're all taught. And then there's the other thing. It's another kind of thing that shows up inside of people. Well, how long do we get things going back? Well, I don't have the answer to that. This is not that kind of webinar. But what I can say is that when it comes right down to it, and he said it, is the virus is really the one who's going to decide that. When we get the virus down to manageable levels, we can get it to the point where we can kind of move around more comfortably and more safely. The virus is really in charge of this. So our job is to get the upper hand on this virus, right? So that we can keep moving toward who and what's important to us. The virus will really determine things. I absolutely believe that. So again, you know, this is kind of what we have up for ourselves going forward. And if you want to engage people, yes is a great way to engage people. So you get in these conversations, and I've had conversations with people that maybe aren't on the same page with me. And this is a great way to kind of use the matrix to say, okay, so who's important to you? I might say to that person, you know, and you've got yucky stuff showing up. What's our shared purpose right now? And we're just asking that kind of simple question with respect, because I think what starts to then happen for a lot of us is we get into this, oh my God, I can't believe it. And then everything starts to kind of become less flexible, less workable. But if we can notice that, if we can step back enough and say, all right, so how do we engage people? How do we help people make the right thing easy to do? And the best way I know about doing that would be to show them the point of view or talk them through it a little bit. Let me tell you about something. Let me ask you about who's important to you, and have these kind of conversations. And at the same time, spread out, keep social distance, wash our hands, and do our best to keep those around us safe and healthy. So I've been on for a while, and I wanted to kind of wind things down now. And that's pretty much what I wanted to share with everybody today. And I really encourage you, again, I really mean this sincerely. You are deputized. Please go out, spread this around, get people to kind of just work on just this validation stuff, and see if that doesn't help make a difference for those of us with the tools that we have. This is a tool, and I say, let's use it. I think it's very helpful at this point in time. I think it will help people to keep coming up with how they can manage themselves in difficult situations, because boy, you know, people are in bad shape. There's people that don't have money, maybe people that don't have food. And what we don't want is don't want them just diving down into the despair, right? Because then that's going to limit their flexibility, limit what they want to do. We want to help them to keep, you know, working on getting a bigger picture. There's help coming. We have this stimulus thing coming. There's food banks out there. There's resources out there. What can they do to try to keep themselves moving? Can they be thinking about their important people and their situation? Conversations like that. So I would encourage you to have conversations like that if and when you can. And I also would encourage you to keep yourselves safe and healthy. So is there anybody want to weigh in with a question or a comment, something? Lori, okay, great. Yep. Are there any videos similar to this that might be appropriate for teens? Well, here's what I would say. I worked with teens for many, many years. And what I'm doing here with you is the same thing that I've done with the teens. I will show them the first loop. I'll have them do it with me. I'll do it with them. And then if I'm working with a group of teens, we will do that together. We will do a shared purpose. What are we here for? What is the point of us getting together today? So what I would say to do would be to kind of watch the recording again, and just think about how would I, and here's a question, how would I apply this to a group of teens, right? How would I do that? Share on the website. I don't want to do, okay, you want to share it on the website. You could just basically direct them to the Act Matrix Academy, or you can direct them to my website. There's YouTube videos out there. You could just say, here's a resource for you. That'd be great. And if people wanted to contact me directly, I could even, if there's some kind of feeling out there, I can maybe talk to Kevin. We're going to talk today. Maybe we even do something for teens. Maybe even just shoot a video, put it up on YouTube, and see how well that make out. So I'd be willing to do that for you. You're welcome. Any other questions? Anybody else got something for the good of the order? I'll wait just a minute because I'm noticing on the chat. And let me just go through this. Okay, two more things. We haven't talked a lot about SEL today, but I have been doing SEL with you all day. So I want you to see the correlations and the connections between SEL and the ACT matrix because, folks, it's all there. In the ACT matrix, we are going to target all of those core areas of social and emotional learning if we do those two loops. You're going to get at self-awareness. You're going to get at self-regulation. You're going to get at social awareness. We're developing relationship skills, and we're developing effective decision-making. We're doing that all in real time, right? It's happening right there as an experience. And it works really great to do that. I also want to share with you my little Mr. Rogers quote here. Human relationships are primary in all of living. When the gusty winds blow and shake our lives, if we know that people care about us, we may bend with the wind, but we won't break. And there's Fred Rogers, the patron saint of the ACT matrix. Other thing I want to leave you with, as I said, spread the word. And I would invite any of you that are doing this kind of work, or if you're not even doing matrix work, if you want to come on and be a guest on our podcast, Kevin and I do the art of being with the ACT matrix. We usually shoot a couple of these podcasts a week, and I would love to have you on. All you got to do is there's a contact on Kevin's site, or you can go to my site, email me, and we have people coming on from all across the globe, and we have a lot of fun doing it. And we do some online training I talked about, certification at the ACT Matrix Academy. And I think that's all I want to say for today. So I want to thank you all for coming on the call. Look for the recording. You'll probably get that. It's about a day away, so sometime Saturday morning it'll show up. Bill's saying he's doing EP counseling with my behavior support kiddos. Yep, they are hard to engage under normal conditions. Any ideas on enticing them to actually join me online? Well, see, Bill, this is the thing that we're all trying to do. You asking that question, I think, is going to probably lead you to come up with some ideas. Because let's face it, and I've done some online stuff already myself, you can't control what they're doing at the other end. I would say you make it as interesting and engaging as possible. I would say that a lot of these kiddos are very tech savvy. They're very used to being online. They're very used to being in front of screens. You could have them showing you how to use stuff. You could have them showing you how to use the Zoom stuff. So that might be one way that you could engage them, is by letting them teach you. And then what I would do is I would kind of stealthily lead them into the ACT matrix. And here's Lori, maybe ask one of the teachers in your school to do it on the, oh, there you go. Perfect. This is why we bring people together. So Lori has said, I'll read this out for those of you, maybe ask one of the teachers in your school to do it as an assignment for their class. There you go. You could have them just fill in the matrix. Just do a quick little matrix diagram. Hey, who's important to you? Have them write that down. Let's do it together, right? Any kind of yucky stuff showing up? Yeah, I'm bored. Yeah, I'm out of whatever. I'm out of milk, or whatever it is that they're going to say, right? And now you're engaging them, right? And now you get that diagram up in front of them, and you start using the language a little bit, or like Lori's talking about, you get a teacher to collaborate with you. There's lots of ways to do that. I think we're going to come up with lots of creative ways. And I think that right now, this whole tele-thing is going to be something that we can use, and we're going to get better and better at using it to do just the kind of stuff that Bill's talking about, engaging our students. And I can tell you that this works pretty well to do that. I would say go ahead and try it out. And then what's going to happen is you're going to get feedback on what works and what doesn't work, and you just keep tweaking it. Stuff like that. So I think that's it. Everybody have yourselves a good day. Stay safe and wash your hands. Right? All right. I'm going to now stop my share. You're welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. And maybe we'll see you at the next webinar. Take it easy.